is exploding from the inside out. Temperatures are rising. Water is rising. Hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunami, earthquakes are reaching levels never recorded by human beings before. On a social scale, people are also going through tremendous changes. Divorce is on the increase. Rape and murder. Substance abuse, alcoholism. Crime in the streets. Racism, tribalism. So the world is in a very serious crisis, relationship of human beings. On an economic level, the system of capitalism, the system of banking, which printed notes that were not based on gold and silver in the bank. The original notes that you have were promissory notes to give you a promise that you could cash this in with a merchant and you would get an equal amount of gold and silver. Now, with the proliferation of dollar bills and pounds and reals and so many different forms of currency, the world is now going through a tremendous change, and this system appears to be about to crash. Well, he hasn't been that. Muslims have gems of wisdom. We have gems of wisdom to give to people. Many people are resorting to magic. It is the rise of the Sahara. You will see magicians and fortune tellers all throughout the world, rising up, secret societies. Islam gives us the Declaration of Independence from those false gods of this world. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us in the Fatiha itself one sentence which liberates us from all of the false deities. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. You alone, Allah, do we worship, and from you alone do we seek assistance. And so Muslims have gems of wisdom. We are poised now. We are in a position in terms of potentiality. We have numbers, we have wealth, we have youth. Everything is in place. But something inside of ourselves, something to motivate us. The fuel for the vehicle needs to be put into the machinery of Islam. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Bu'ithtu li'utammima husn al-akhlaq." This is the riwayah in Muwatta Imam Malik. I have been sent to complete the best in character. So character is the essence of Islam. It's the internal Muslim. It's not just our names, it's not our clothing, it's not just what you say. Ultimately, is how we act in this world. And so it is crucial for the younger generation to have not only just book knowledge, but to have living knowledge, living Islam, role models. And this is where, when we look to the great companions of the Prophet ﷺ, we see the best role models that have ever been raised up for humanity. And after many years of reading about different companions, I found one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, the qualities that this person has are some of the most important deficiencies that Muslims have today. We want to make a change, and we want to put people in leadership who will take us from darkness into light. The people are marching in the Middle East and they're saying, Ashab Yurid Isqat al-Nizam, that the people want the system to come down. They want the relationship, the Nizam, the government, the system, the relationship between people. They want it to change. How do we make that change? What is the example that we can use to come out of this difficulty that we're in? Alhamdulillah, we are awake. Muslims are awake. It's like a giant that is sleeping. And now the giant is awake, and when you get up, the first few moments you feel a little groggy. You're not sure which way to go, to the left or to the right. But the giant is awake now and standing up. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was surrounded by people who are a blessing to the Ummah. And this individual, whose name was Amir ibn Abdullah ibn al-Jarrah, he is known as Abu Ubaidah, radiallahu anhu. He is described as a person who was tall, he was thin, his beard was not a thick beard, it was very khafif al-lihya, it was sparse, his beard, but he was a pleasurable person to look at. And the pleasure in looking at him was not just a physical thing, it was what we call today his body language. And this is really important. Your body language is really important. He was an individual, he was polite, he was courteous, and he was actually described as being a little bit shy. Actually, he was very modest. Kathir al-haya. He was a modest person. The kind of person, he's really soft when you meet the person, and you can put your head in his lap. Like he's really a humble kind of person. But at the same time, he's really strong. You see these two qualities. Usually strength is connected to a big body and a muscle man and, you know, special ops or, you know, WW whatever, UFC now in Canada. This is now the, Abu Ubaidah was a humble person. He was modest. But when a tough situation arose, they described Abu Ubaidah as the sharp side of the sword. He turned into a lion. When the enemies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came, he turned into a lion. So this is the qualities. Humble with the believers, and when evil approaches in a difficult situation, he becomes very strong. Abu Ubaidah rahimahullah, he is being described by Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. And Abdullah ibn Umar is reported to have said, there were 3 people in Quraysh. They were the most prominent people of Quraysh. They had the best of character, and they were extremely modest people. Kathir al-haya. When they spoke to you, they tell you the truth. They don't deceive you when they speak. And when you speak to them, they do not accuse you of lying. Look at this personality. When they speak to you, they tell you the truth. And when you speak to them, they do not have su'adhan. They don't have suspicion. They don't accuse you of lying. And he named Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, Uthman ibn Affan, and Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu. But Abu Ubaidah stands out from amongst them in terms of hayat. He's an extremely modest person. But most people don't know, his Islam goes back right to the beginning. He actually accepted Islam one day after Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. The next day, Abu Ubaidah was Muslim. And this was in the early days there in Mecca. And he suffered through the very difficult situation that they went through. They were underground in the house of Al-Arqam, Ibn al-Arqam. They suffered torture and oppression. It got so bad that he was given permission to make migration, and he made the hijrah, or the migration, to Al-Habasha, to Ethiopia. Those who took the Western Sunrise, you remember Ethiopia, right? Abu Ubaidah was there. Abu Ubaidah rahimahullah then migrated to Medina for the major migration with the Prophet ﷺ. But when the Battle of Badr came, and this was the great Furqan, that which separated truth from falsehood, Abu Ubaidah had a really traumatic experience. He had a shocking experience. In this battle, and you recall the setting of the battle, the Prophet ﷺ brought together his companions, about 313 of his companions, in order to take back their wealth that Abu Sufyan had put on a caravan, and he was taken into Syria. Abu Sufyan, a very crafty person, escaped, and the armies of Mecca took his place. So they faced 1,000 Meccans with 300 horses, with chain mail. It was a really difficult situation. Abu Ubaidah, rahimahullah, radiallahu anhu, he was in the front lines. And it is reported he was fighting on the right side, and a man came to him directly in front of him, blocked his way. And Abu Ubaidah turned away from the man and went to the other side. Now, Abu Ubaidah does not walk away. But in this case, he turned from the man and he went to the other side. The man went around to the other side of the battlefield and blocked the way in front of him again. Abu Ubaidah went to the center. The man came again. There was no turning away, and the man attacked Abu Ubaidah, and with one blow, Abu Ubaidah took his life. Following the Battle of Badr, they found Abu Ubaidah sitting, and he was very sad. And they asked him, who was that person who was following you around on the battlefield? We have never seen you turning away from somebody who is coming to destroy Islam. And Abu Ubaidah, rahimahullah, radiallahu anhu, said, that was my father. That was his father. And when you think about tribal society, blood, according to the tribal understanding, was the most important thing. The Arabs would say, unsur akhaka zaliman or madluma. You help your brother, your physical brother, whether he is an oppressor or oppressed. It's all about tribe. This is his father. But he did not let his father stand in the way of Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed in Surah Al-Mujadala, verse 22, and in this verse, because of time, I'll read from the translation of the verse, and it is saying, you will not find any people who believe in Allah and His Messenger and the last day, loving those who resist Allah and His Messenger, even though they were their fathers, or their sons, or their brothers, or their kindred. For such He has written faith in their hearts and strengthened them with a spirit from Himself. He will admit them into gardens beneath which rivers flow to dwell in forever. And then Allah said after that, رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُمْ وَرَضُوا عَنْهُ أُولَٰئِكَ حِزْبُ اللَّهِ أَلَا إِنَّ حِزْبَ اللَّهِ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. The verse ends by saying, Allah is well pleased with them, and they are pleased with Him. They are the party of Allah. Surely it is the party of Allah that will achieve success. So Abu Ubaidah, radiallahu anhu, was able to overcome his tribal connections. This is a really important point, because today tribalism and nationalism is destroying the unity of the community. And I'm sorry to say this, but I will say it to the younger generation. In Toronto, when I was the imam back in 1985, we had 2 masjids in the whole city. And now, there are masjids all over the place. There's over 100 places where you can make salat. And alhamdulillah, Toronto is expanding, but when I went to the masjids, I found out that in each of the masjids, except for a few, is an ethnic group. It is a tribe. So each nation and tribe created its own little space and called it a masjid. But the Jamiat masjid is what we want. We want to be shoulder to shoulder with people of other nationalities and other tribes. It is also reported about Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu and Muhammad ibn Ja'far radiallahu anhu, he reports, a Christian delegation came to Medina, Christians, and they came to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and they said, we have great respect for you Muslims. Can you send with us a person who you are well pleased with? Somebody who can judge between us in matters of property. We have property disputes, and we need a qadi, we need a judge. These are Christians. And they recognize the honesty and straightforwardness of the Muslims. So the Christians said, send us somebody who you are well pleased with. The hadith continues, and Umar ibn al-Khattab, the great, later to be Khalifa, Umar said, I went to the masjid and waited after Dhuhr, hoping that the Prophet would say me, because this person is going to be pleased, right? The Prophet's pleasing. And then the Prophet looked around Umar and he said, Abu Ubaidah, I want you to go with the Christians and to help them solve their property disputes. So Abu Ubaidah, although he was an extremely committed person, he's extremely committed to his faith, he is flexible enough to deal with people of other religions. And not just an interfaith conference where everybody said we all believe in God. He is dealing with Christian people in real, everyday, mundane matters of this world. He's a judge for the people of the book. So this is another extremely important quality of Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu. But probably the most important quality of Abu Ubaidah, the Prophet ﷺ one day put his hand on Abu Ubaidah and said, Inna li kulli umma aminan wa inna amin hadhihi al-umma Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah. He said, every nation has a truthful, trustworthy person, Amin. And the truthful and trustworthy person of this nation is Abu Ubaidah. Amana. Amana is one of the most important qualities that Muslims need today. That means we trust each other. If you take a responsibility from somebody, you will fulfill your responsibilities. You are honest and truthful to what you say. This is a crucial quality of Abu Ubaidah. It is also reported that in the great battle of Uhud, when the mushrikeen had come back to take revenge in Medina, Abu Ubaidah had a special quality about him. He was not only dealing with defending Medina, he wanted to defend the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ himself, because he knew that the intention of the mushrikeen was not just to destroy the city, it was to assassinate the Prophet and thereby end Islam completely. And so every time the battle came, when the waves came, Abu Ubaidah had one eye for the battlefield and another eye for Rasulullah ﷺ. After the Muslims suffered a setback in Uhud, and you recall when the archers left their position on the mountain, when they thought the mushrikeen were retreating, and they left their positions, and Khalid ibn Walid, who was not a Muslim, came in back of the Muslims, and they were caught in a sandwich. They were caught in the middle. And the Prophet ﷺ was under a personal attack. They smashed him in his head, threw him down into a pit, broke his molar teeth, and the pieces of his helmet actually went down into his jaw. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu jumped down to the Prophet. He put his back over the Prophet. He was one of the people who shielded Rasulullah ﷺ with his physical body. And then, when the metal was stuck inside of the face of Rasulullah ﷺ, Abu Ubaidah, with his incisor teeth, he pulled it out and actually lost his teeth, pulling out the metal from the face of Rasulullah ﷺ. And so true love for the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and selflessness. Selflessness. These are qualities. Think about these qualities. Because when the new governments come in Tunisia and in Egypt and inshallah in Syria, may Allah help the people of Syria and in all parts of the Muslim world, who will take over? Who will be the leaders? What are the qualities that we need in these times in order to have a balanced society and to really fulfill our duties as Muslims? It is also reported, after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, the Ansar people gathered together in the Saqifa, in the garden of Banu Sa'ada, and they chose one of their own to be the leader of Medina. The Muhajirin from Mecca came. These are the first Muslims, the senior people, and they let the Ansar know, we are the senior people. We have to make this decision together. And at that point, and this is not known by a lot of people, Umar ibn Khattab put his hand in the hands of Abu Ubaidah. And he said, I give you my pledge of allegiance to be the Khalifa, Amir al-Mu'mineen. And Umar quoted that you are the Amin, Hadi al-Ummah, you are the most trustworthy person of this nation, and so therefore, you should be the one who leads the Ummah. Abu Ubaidah then turned to Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu and said, how can I accept this in the presence of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq? And it is well known the position of as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu in terms of his Islam, in terms of his da'wah, in terms of his suffering, in terms of the hijrah with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sick, and he couldn't lead Salat, Abu Bakr led Salat. When he couldn't make Hajj, Abu Bakr was the one that led the Muslims on the pilgrimage to Mecca. So it was a natural thing. What Abu Ubaidah had was the humility to give the leadership to the one who deserves to be the leader. This is a crucial point. Because in many of our masajid and Islamic centers, we're stuck in these political disputes, one group against another. People are even making campaigns and paying people for votes and bringing their friends to vote because he wants to be president of the mosque, or he wants to be the new imam of the sheikh. Abu Ubaidah did not have desire for leadership. He did not have desire for leadership. This is a crucial quality in these times. And so when Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu put his hand on Abu Bakr's hand, and then Umar put it in, the Muhajirin, the Ansar, and they chose the natural person to be the Khalifa, who was as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu, who was the one who fulfilled the message of Allah Azza wa Jalla. It is also reported about Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu that after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the Muslims were attacked in the north by the Romans, Abu Ubaidah was one of the leaders of the armies. And when they went north in the area of Syria, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala liberate Syria and bring peace and justice to the people of Syria. When Abu Ubaidah went into this area, a terrible plague, Ta'un, a terrible plague came. And people were dying from this virus or this disease. When Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu found out about this, he sent a letter immediately to the army. And he said, give this to Abu Ubaidah. And the letter said, when you read this letter, you must return to Medina immediately. Umar wanted to save his life. Abu Ubaidah wrote back, and he basically said, I'll read the translation of his answer. He said, I know that you need me, but I am in an army of Muslims, and I have no desire to save myself from what is afflicting them. I do not want to separate from them until Allah wills. So when this letter reaches you, release me from your command and permit me to stay. When Umar received received this letter, he began to cry. And they said, is Abu Ubaidah dead? And Umar said, no, but death is near. And by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he contracted the plague. He contracted this. And he became deathly ill. And when he was on his deathbed, he brought together the leaders and he spoke to the Muslims. And he gave the Muslims an advice, wasiyah. And I want to give you the wasiyah of Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu. This is really, really serious. It is like he's talking to us. It's amazing how this knowledge is so relevant today. He said to them, establish prayer, fast in Ramadan, give sadaqah, perform Hajj and Umrah, remain united and support one another. See what he says? Remain united. Support one another. Be sincere to your leaders and do not conceal anything from them. Very important point. Don't conceal anything from the leaders. If the leader is doing something wrong, tell him, tell her, you're doing something wrong. Be sincere to each other. And then he said, radiallahu anhu, don't let the world, hayat dunya, don't let the world destroy you. For even if a man were to live 1,000 years, he would still end up in the fate that you see me in. And then he said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And he turned to Mu'adh ibn Jabal, radiallahu anhu, and he said, Mu'adh, lead the salat. And then his soul returned to Allah Azza wa Jalla. Mu'adh then turned to the Muslims and he said, O people, you are stricken by the death of a man. By Allah, I don't know whether I have seen a man who is moral, who has a more righteous heart, who was further from all evil, and who was more sincere to the people than this man. Ask Allah to shower His mercy on him, and Allah will be merciful to you. So Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu, there are certain qualities that I want you to reflect on. Amongst the many issues that we are dealing with, qualities, and we have all studied and heard that Allah Azza wa Jalla has said very clearly, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah will not change the condition of a people till they change that which is in themselves. Character. What are the qualities? Number one, his general body language, the general qualities that he had. He's a truthful person. He tells you the truth. He doesn't suspect you. He's not prejudging you. You know, you look at somebody and you say, where you come from, brother? Which Jamaat are you in? Look at his beard. Look at her hijab. She must be one of those sisters. No prejudgment. No prejudgment. Okay? Innocence in dealing with people. Extremely important quality. Humility. He's a humble person, a shy person, but he's strong. See, he combines this two. He's humble, but strong. That's what we want. Polite, courteous, but he's not afraid to stand up for himself. He has shuja', courage, but he's not a bully. You know the bullies that are in our high schools now, grammar schools. Also, he does not scandalize people. He will not accuse you. If you say something to him, he will not accuse you of lying. He's not a scandal monger, spreading rumors about people. I can recall that I shared this with my students. In Cape Town, a special discotheque nightclub was set up near the Muslim community, and they called it Dark Side. It had 5 levels of madness, or 7 levels of madness, like 7 heavens. And the Muslims, youth, would go out to Dark Side, and they would taking ecstasy and dancing around in the middle of the night. This place was a fitna, it was a major fitna in the community. And the Muslim would be there in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning, raving around and dancing around, and then he goes to get something to eat and he says, "Is it halal?" So it was a real fitna in the community. The word came out that the students of the Islamic school of Surrey Estate were in Doxa. The Imam, a friend of mine, the Sheikh Irfan, he's an activist Imam. He said, my students are in Dockside. So he went down to the discotheque, to the nightclub, with his cap on and his jubba like this, and he walked inside of the nightclub. And he grabbed his students and he carried them off the dance floor. He took them off the dance floor, right? Took them off, out of the nightclub. Now, somebody is driving by and they see Sheikh Irfan going into a nightclub. Astaghfirullah, here it is. The Imam is at the nightclub. That's how a scandal starts, right? And by the time it reaches the other side of the city, he was not only in the nightclub, he was breakdancing in the middle of the floor. If the people went to the Imam and said to him, why were you in Dockside? And they found out what he was doing, they would kiss his hand. So scandal is a very destructive thing. The Prophet ﷺ even said, "La yadkhulul jannah namam," that the person who can carry scandal, false accusations, will not enter paradise. So Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu, his tongue was clean. His tongue was clean. He also had patience in adversity. The difficulties of Mecca, the difficulties of Ethiopia. He was able to rise above tribalism. Even his own father, he would not put his father in the way of his king. He completely left tribalism. His tribe, his nation were the Muslims. That's the kind of leader. Not that we leave our families, but we realize Islam is above our culture. So if culture says one thing and Islam says another thing, we go with Islam and we leave our culture. If the culture is with Islam, mashallah. You like chili in your food? No problem. But chili doesn't make it halal. Doesn't make it halal. Another quality of Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu, he had no desire for leadership. He did not want to be a leader. If he has to be a leader, he will be a leader. But he has no desire in his heart to be a leader. This is really important today. So we don't waste time in our centers and masjids and Islamic movements fighting over power, egoism, and name and fame instead of humbling ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abu Ubaidah also, he obeyed leaders. When Abu Bakr was chosen as Khalifa, Abu Ubaidah served him. He served him, he obeyed him. Even though the Prophet ﷺ said, you are the most trustworthy person. He served Umar. So he's a leader, but he also follows. And every leader should be ready to be a follower. If you're not ready to be a follower, then you're not an Islamic leader. You are Fir'aun, you are a Pharaoh, and a potential danger to the religion. Another of his qualities, selflessness. He saw himself equal to his men, to his followers. He's a leader, but yet he will eat the same food, he will suffer in the same way as the people in his Jamaat or the people in his nation. Our leaders today in the Muslim world, if the president or the king, whatever, he wants to go from his palace down the street, to his office, and they clear the road 5 hours before they stand, just because he wants to go from one street to another. Like, what are you afraid of? Another quality of Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu, one of his probably greatest qualities was amana, trust. Trust. If there's no trust, there's no relationships. If I can't trust you, if I can't trust her, if you can't trust each other, we have no relationship. And that's the same for husband and wife. You have to trust each other. You have to tell each other your secrets. You should not hold secrets from your husband or from your wife. And another extremely important point was that although he was highly committed to his faith, ready to give his life, he was flexible enough to work with people of other religions. He was flexible enough to go to the Christian people and to help them solve their problems. And that is one of the duties of Muslims today, is that if we have certain skills, we have to give back to society. In literacy, in computer technology, engineering, free medical service. We have to give back to the society that we have benefited from and try to be part of the solution in America and not the problem. Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu, and I leave you with these final words of his wasiyah. He gives us the advice: carry out your wajibat. Do your pillars of Islam faithfully. Unite yourselves. Unity. Yes, we are slightly different one to another, but we are Muslims. We have to unite. It is reported that Khalid ibn Walid, radiallahu anhu, when he accepted Islam and it was late, he didn't have enough time to memorize a lot of the Quran. He was not a qari. So when it was time to lead Salat, the people would look at Khalid and they looked for somebody else. Because he knows, like us, like many of us, Nas and Falak and, Kawthar, they look for somebody else. They look for Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. Let him lead Salat. And Khalid goes in the back of the line and he prays in back of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. When the enemies of Allah came, when danger came, everybody said, "Where is Khalid? Where is Khalid? Put him in the front." And Khalid was the leader. So now, he's a follower and he's a leader. Because he was chosen as the leader, did he make his own group? Did he call it Hizb Khalid? Or Tariqa Khalidiyah? Did he make Madhab Khalid? No, he was just one of the Muslims. And so amongst us, there are Muslims who love to do tabligh. There are Muslims who focus on Aqidah. There are Muslims who focus on education. There are Muslims who focus on dhikrullah. There are Muslims who focus on school building and education. So many, we are all part of the same nation. And we need to combine ourselves and to be able to sit together and in a sincere, open way, share the things that we have shared. Unite ourselves. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here in Houston, we would have many more conferences with Al-Maghrib, Mass, ICNA, ISGH, all of the groups come together in a conference like this. That's a beautiful thing. And we need to have more of this because we specialize in certain areas, but we're brothers and sisters in the deen. Finally, Abu Ubaidah radiallahu anhu, he tells the Muslims, be sincere to your leaders. Don't hide anything from your leader. Be open. Do not be afraid. Speak up. This is important. Speak up in the family. Speak up in the Jama'ah. Finally, he shows the people, do not be fooled by the dunya. وَمَا الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَتَاعُ الْغُرُورِ. The life of this world is nothing but a deception. Don't be fooled by this dunya. We're here today and we're gone tomorrow. So let us use the materials that we have, give back. Give back, because that money that you have, that wealth that you have, is only a trust. Put in your hands. You can't take it with you to the grave. And so these are the qualities of one of the great companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And we pray that Allah Azza wa Jal will continue to bless him and in the highest part of Jannah. We pray that Allah Azza wa Jal would raise up thousands of Abu Ubaidas in this ummah who can lead us with sincerity and courage and flexibility, the flexibility to deal with people of other faiths, strong in their faith, but open-minded to other people's understandings. I leave you with these thoughts, and I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to have mercy on me and you. I ask that Allah Azza wa Jal would make our last words kalima la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu. We ask that Allah Azza wa Jal would have mercy on the shuhada who are dying in Syria, those who have died in Tunisia and Egypt and Bangladesh and all the places where Muslims are suffering. May Allah Azza wa Jal ease their burdens and give them victory in this world and in the hereafter. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.